Welcome to another episode of Interviewing the Legends with special guest Robert Cutarella.
Hey, how are you, Ray?
I'm doing good, man. I want to say right off the bat, I want to talk about Lemonade.
Oh, you like my...
I did like Lemonade. It sounds very Herb Alpert.
Well, you know, it's funny. I just write for me, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
But friends, I had written this whole album of kind of smooth jazz, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
you know. And my friend really liked it. My friend owns Blue Moon Records. What's the name of it? Mesa Blue Moon,
Right.
which is part of Universal now. It's part of Virgin, I believe. So his name is George, and he George's been around forever, great guy, and he said, let's put it out, but are you going to follow it up gigging, so I tried to get a band together, right? So all my friends are like, all right, well, how much we get paid, how often, and we're not leaving town, we're not going to. I said, that's, I had a group ages ago called Men of a Certain Age. Same thing. Australia wanted to give us a deal. We had a major label. Excuse me. Everybody thought, oh, the record is great. And then nobody wanted to tour. So Lemonade sits there, without a straw in it, if you know what I mean. It's just, I happen to love it,
Well, you have Gabriel Hasselbach as the trumpeter. He's great. He's incredible.
That's one of George's artists.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Mesa Blue Moon is a sweet label, and he's always had impeccable taste in who he chooses, for his artists, jazz artists.
Is jazz one of your favorite genres?
I started out loving jazz, the horn players, drummers in jazz, the Gene Krupa was the reason I started playing drums.
He's incredible.
Thing was, I was 9 years old, and I went to the Metropole in New York with my friend, who was a sax player, and his father, who was a cop, and my dad. So the cop sits me next to, I'm 9 years old, not supposed to be in there, but he sits me next to Gene Krupa. You're a 9-year-old, you're chubby, you have no confidence. You turn around and you see this guy in a silver suit, beautiful tie, and the ladies are going nuts, and you go, that's my future. I can do that from behind a set of drums. How awesome is that? So that started it off. That was like, wow.
Yeah, Gene Krupa and
like
Buddy Rich. Those are the two best drummers, in my opinion, ever. Those two guys. And there's a lot of guys,
They've had their where they play against each other like a drum off. Krupa had a little different style than Buddy Rich. Buddy Rich had, they were both, really good drummers. Especially they understood the big band thing.
Right.
And the thing is, when you watch them play, there's a guy named Vinny Caluto who's an amazing drummer, right? When you watch them play, they're like dancers. It's almost like they study dancers because their hands, the way they, every little touch on the cymbals, people don't understand. People think cymbals, like when you're growing up and you're playing in the band, people always come over, smack a cymbal.
Yep.
Cymbals are delicate, and they have very beautiful tonality depending upon where you hit them, what part of the stick you hit them with, and all that stuff. So I don't know. My relationship to drums, they're like art for me. I'm a drummer.
Yeah.
I love drums.
Oh, definitely. My son's a drummer too.
Yeah.
He took drums.
Who does he love?
He's the later generation. He's like he's 36 years old. So he likes who's he like here? Oh God, I forgot.
Travis Barker.
Yeah, Travis Barker. Good. Very good. Exactly.
I have to keep up with everything,
Yeah. That's exactly who he likes. Yeah. It's amazing.
I mean, Travis, beside being a celebrity, he's a really good drummer.
Yeah.
But the guys still love the guys in the Queen and Roger Taylor, and they still love what's his name from Metallica, the drummer, and they seem to Lars Ulrich, guys like that. Young people still know who they are,
sure.
because and you would know this, but there was this article that I listened to the other day about the fact that we don't have any bands anymore.
That's it. Yeah. I
Where'd they
agree
go?
100%.
What, did they leave their garage and their basement? No more basements?
No guitarist, no, guitarist in the spotlight, like a Jimmy Page. There's no guys like that anymore.
Well, guitar sales were up to when at some point I was told that Gibson was selling 1 million Les Pauls a year. Right. So if they were selling 1 million, even if, after attrition and everything else, you still got a healthy bunch of guitars coming up. But I don't know what happened with this whole thing about bands, or did a lot of people like the bands, the Migos, they weren't really a band,
right?
But did people call bands bands, even though they were, 3 guys or 2 guys? I don't know. Steely Dan technically is a band, but
yeah, I love Steely Dan though. They were so good.
I was their publisher for 6 years.
Like you said, they were studio musicians, basically.
They were fascinating though. For me, being their publisher was a difficult job on one level because you're supposed to get their songs recorded.
Right.
My experience in publishing has been that I work with the Bee Gees, you work with Pink Floyd, you work with Police, people who had identifiable sounds, Elton John. Hard to get their songs cut if they were the demo.
Yeah.
Because everybody tried to compare them, and they'd say, well, if it wasn't a hit for them, I'm not going to. But some people were smart. Tom Bell, when I worked with the Bee Gees, Tom Bell, who I admire so much because I love Philly International and all the music that came out of there. Tom called me up one day. He was cutting a couple of songs I sent him from the Bee Gees. And he invited me down to the sessions. And man, if I ever needed my head turned around, my head got turned around so quickly to watch his arrangement skills, how he approached the song that I've been listening to since I got the job, and I never thought it could be turned in any different direction. I just thought, okay, this is what it is. The people open your eyes to things sometimes. It was a big eye opener for me. Yeah.
Did you know Joe Lala? He was a friend of mine.
So Joe Lala was percussionist.
Yeah. He played congas.
Yeah,
he was in Manassas. He was in.
That's right. He was with Stephen Stills. Yeah. So I met him. Don't know him.
But he did a lot of studio work with the Bee Gees and Saturday Night Fever.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
He was a friend of mine because he lives in Tampa. He lived in Tampa. He passed away. He was a good guy. Real good guy. And I knew Mike Pinera, too. They were in the same band together.
Another one.
Yeah, he just passed away. Good guy.
That's a sad thing that's going on. As I get older, it's hard to see them dropping.
I know, man. You look great, by the way. You look really good. Yeah. Keep the long hair. Keep the long hair. That's it.
Well, you know what? I was ready to cut it off, right?
No, don't cut it off.
Wait. I'll tell you why, though. Because I'm on the dating site, right?
Oh,
and the women, okay. Oh, you're going to cut your hair. You're 74.
Oh, gosh.
Now I'm sitting there thinking it one day, and I walk into the studio with this young guy, a young rapper, comes over to me, goes, "The hair's iconic, dude. It's iconic." So
you got to keep
it.
I got to keep it.
Yeah, for a while, we'll see. The thing is, you're either an old hippie,
right,
or it's that's so cool. It's one or the other. You got no in between there. So
that's true. I'd rather have my hair longer because when I cut it short, I'd look like a banker again.
That's a problem. That's the thing is same with me. If I cut my hair short,
it's not me.
And I'm branding myself now. I got a book coming out. So
yeah. Talk about that. Talk about the book.
The book is called Mentor.
Okay.
Right. And my friend Charles Carlini is a publisher. And Charles has been a pretty well-known concert promoter and everything else, but he's a brilliant guy with books. And I was telling him, I sent him the book a year ago. Originally, Alfred Music was going to publish the book.
Right. I know that.
Then they got rid of that division.
Yep.
A guy named John Cerullo, lovely guy. So then I said, what am I going to do? I don't want to self-publish because somehow self-publishing and as much as I would do it, just to get it out because I got other books behind it, it doesn't make you feel like, for my career, it would have been nice if Condé Nast would have called up with somebody there and said, hey, why don't you do a book? I'm not Rick Rubin, but, but I have some interesting stories and some insight, hopefully, So this book was based on the fact that when I was a kid, because people always ask you how you get in the music business. And lately, I just tell them, you have to be in the moment. And then that drives them crazy because they don't even know what the hell that I'm talking about. So, that's a later story. So I start out with the fact that I was enamored with celebrities. That celebrities were, at that time, Dick Clark, DJs, like Murray Decay and all that. And my neighborhood, we had Jay and the Americans came out of my neighborhood and Brian Hyland. So I said, if they can do it, what's the difference between them and me? I can do it, right? So I had a little bit of motivation working that way. And as I got into the business, I realized that, you meet celebrities all the time, and you don't want to be a star fucker, if I'm allowed to say that,
right?
But you want to understand their road. What's the map? Is there a map? I want to know the map, but I didn't get to know the map that way. What I realized, my friends, studio musicians, were helping me say, why don't you sit in on our sessions? So we'll tell the producer. And George Martin happened to be the first one that I really sat in on, heavy duty. And he's making the record with Neil Sedaka called The Song. My friend Bob Rose is playing guitar on it. So Bob brought me in. And man, I sat there and I went, he's a mentor to the Beatles, but he's like a celebrity, but in the background. And then I started realizing that, like Bruce Lundvall and Ron Alexenberg and all these executives, Clive Davis, they were all letting me come in and take meetings with them, Frank Rand.
Incredible.
And they just let me sit in all the time. So then it became, I sat in Rupert Holmes sessions with Barbra Streisand, sat in on David Wolford sessions with somebody else. Before you know it, I started to realize that these were very important people, and that celebrity wasn't all about it for me, in that respect. It was, because if I wanted to be a celebrity, I would have honed in on my craft of singing, because we had a single with Tommy West and Terry Cashman, with the little group that we had. And I don't know. So the book is called Mentor because about quarter of the way through, I shifted from celebrity to things that helped me and that I could pass along as my greatest hits. Things like be a good listener.
Right.
Ask your questions later, but be a good listener. Don't think you know everything. Don't piss anybody off, because same people going up, you're going to see them coming down. And things like that. And they became more of lessons, and in a way, they're life lessons. You can apply all this to just everyday living.
And don't hum in the studio. I heard about that one.
Studio stuff. What can you say?
Yeah. That's what I'm missing. I never had a mentor. See, I got into the music thing with interviews and everything about, I don't know, 10, 11 years ago. I had my own column, a classic rock column, and then I built it up and started interviewing. Joe Lala was the first interview I did. I went over his house, his apartment. But like you said, these other guys are doing it. Why not me? Because I got a great background in music. I went to thousands of rock concerts. Right? I love it. That's the key. I love it. Yeah, but if I had a mentor, I could figure out what's the next step in my life, because I've done so many interviews. What's next?
I tell you what, honestly, and I don't know you really, but you've read your resume, and I'm looking at this resume of yours, and I'm going, that's a podcast. That's it. You know what it becomes, in a way, it becomes Rick Beato.
Yeah. I know.
You take it to the next step. Yeah. Rick Beato's done it best so far.
He has.
But he spent how many years? 5 years before he could even really make any money with it. But he's got a format. that people are asking to be on his show.
Right.
So if you're asking to be on Rick's show, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not bad to have that competition. I mean, I'm looking at it in a similar kind of way because I just created 80 courses on the history of the music industry that I'm talking to people about turning into.
Thank you for that, by the way.
Docuseries. Hey, go to the colleges everywhere. Everywhere you go to college.
We need that.
Nothing.
You know?
We have a class on the history of the music business. Really, a class. You can't even, a class is a blip. It's not even a blip. It's nothing.
When I was in grade school, we had a music class. And I think, you know, we studied albums like Arlo Guthrie, you know, that album, you know, what is it? Alice's Restaurant. That was like a big deal.
Big deal.
Yeah. But, you know, we learned about current music and older music at that time. And we could bring in our own albums and discuss them and things like that, you know. And kids today have everything at their disposal to learn about music. I mean, with the phone and the internet, I mean, there's no excuses. It really isn't.
Well, the excuse is that the internet, our current technology is supposedly shifting brain patterns. And they're not adjusting. They're adjusting technically to shorter gaps, short span, boom, boom,
short.
boom.
Boom, boom, boom.
And, you know, we trained ourselves based on, I guess, whatever those patterns were at that time. You know, everything moves slowly compared to what, I mean, it's nanoseconds now.
Right.
And I see it with, you know, my godson, and I see it with 28-year-olds, 25. Right. I just producing a kid named Brandon Statner. Really bright kid, really bright. I admire his brightness. I mean, and he's a deeper thinker. You know, and I talked to him about all this stuff in his generation and all. And sometimes he feels connected and sometimes he feels disconnected from his generation. And I think partially because, you know, he's a musician, but he studied to be a physicist. You know, he's one of these thinkers. He really, I could have a conversation. I was talking to him about a lyric that Sting had, wrapped around your finger. I was a former English teacher. So I had, you know, I enjoyed English lit.
But my daughter's an English teacher, by the way.
There you go. So your daughter's an English teacher, so she can appreciate a good lyric. And Sting was an English teacher. And I worked with him. I only talked to him once briefly about it years ago. But so the song Wrapped Around Your Finger is a great, great song. It's just, you know, you consider me the young apprentice caught between the Scylla and Charybdis. Now, right from the get-go, caught between the Scylla and Charybdis, you're thinking to yourself, if it goes by, and it goes by quickly, it just sounds good to the ear.
Yeah, it does.
Even though it's Greek mythology, who the hell knows about Greek mythology and the Scylla and the Charybdis? You know, you'd have to have studied that. And he uses references like Mephistopheles in the same song and all. But he puts it together. He did it with the Nabokov reference in Don't Stand So Close, I think. You know, these are intelligent lyrics.
Right.
And when I was talking to this kid about lyrics and all that stuff, he goes, oh, yeah. And he starts quoting Paul Simon to me. And, you know, somebody else I was talking to started quoting, oh, that's the Lolita syndrome. And so some people, they just sit and they suck it up, you know, and they can absorb it. Other people, they want bored. The quick, they want the quick hit. They have to be entertained. Look at that record. What's his name? The kid who performed at the Grammys. I love this kid. They jumped on the piano and did the spin. Please stay. I want you. I need you. That kid is so good, so good. But people want the entertainment. They just don't want They need the show, you know.
They need the show. I know. I'm tired of the show.
Well, I don't know. I was more enamored with the Grammys this time than the past.
Right.
That's not saying much, because no, only because there was more live music, more arrangements, more
Right.
bands, the Quincy
Right.
Jones tribute.
Yeah.
I mean, she could sing, that woman. Oh my God. She's got pipes. And I guess I was into that more. Did I think some of the choices were political? Every year they're political. Same with the films, Oh, we never gave this one this. We have to give this person that.
Yep. Just like
where it's coming
Rock and Roll
from.
Hall of Fame was the same way.
Oh yeah.
It's ridiculous,
I tell you, the first time I was at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was for a speaking engagement and the Les Paul. And the biggest honor of my life, and one of the biggest, is that Slash and all the guitarists played a song that was videotaped there that we wrote. Awesome. Slash and I wrote. And so somewhere it's sitting in their annals.
That's very cool.
What do you call them? The annals of history of rock and roll.
Yeah.
It's a big honor, because
sure.
You do this, you don't do it for the awards, you do it because you love it.
Right.
Period. You get an award, pretty cool.
Yeah.
You get to have something like that where you go for 3 days and you're speaking and all these great musicians are playing and they're playing your song and you're like, wow, this videotape is going to live and it's documented in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Exactly.
It's the coolest thing,
Yeah, you made your mark. That's cool.
Well, it felt like, because I tell people all the time, you never arrive. I said, I'm sorry. When I won the Grammys, it wasn't an arrival.
What'd you win the Grammys? What'd you win the Grammys for?
The Les Paul record.
Oh, the Les Paul records. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we were nominated for 9 or 11. We won 2.
Yep.
And it was, obviously I was crying.
Yeah.
I'm one sensitive people anyway. And I was like 50 years old at the time or whatever, 55. So
can I find that on YouTube?
What, the crying part? No.
Yeah. No.
Afternoon. It's the afternoon. Look, my mother couldn't. My mother I called my mother up and said, Mom, we just won the Grammys. And she goes, I didn't see you on television. Neither did my girlfriends. I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, why did I make this call?
but that's funny.
Yeah. Even funny was Les. Yeah. Because Les was a perfectionist who never had a producer.
Right.
So he did everything himself. So this was took me 10 years to convince him to make a record.
Really?
10 years.
Huh.
10 years. And I brought every executive down to see him that you could think of. He fell in love with one guy who was my business partner. It was Phil Cutarella. Yeah. And, he just loved Phil Q. Yeah. But the funny part was when we won the Grammys, Les was in the hospital back in Jersey.
Right.
So, of course, we got to call him up. I call him up and he goes, let me tell you how you fucked the record up. I'm sitting there going, he must know my mother. Apparently, they're
funny.
Friends. It's like reverse applause.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's always got to be a cynic somewhere.
Well, yeah, definitely. That's for sure.
You were talking about great lyricists. God, I just lost my mind here. What is wrong with me?
Music.
Yeah, music, but great lyricist. But I just lost it. It'll come back to me.
Great lyricists. There's a bunch of them out there. Country guy?
The Lime and the Coconut.
Oh, Brian Wilson.
No.
Harry Nilsson.
Harry Nilsson. I had it on the tip of my tongue. That guy was brilliant, man. You're talking about great lyrics. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Harry Nilsson. You had a bunch of look. Can anybody really dissect? I mean, I know Billy Joel, one of his favorite songs ever is Wichita Lineman.
Right. Me too. I like that song. Love it.
So, but today, would anybody relate to I am a lineman for the county?
Sad, isn't it? Oh my God.
The thing that cracks me up about it is that when I listen to that song, I get welled up,
Me too. I do too. Yeah.
And I need you more than want you, and I want you for all time. And the Wichita Lineman still on the line.
Yeah.
It's just
I know. They don't make music like that anymore. I am so glad I listen. I grew up in the 60s listening to music. And the top 40 was everything. Oh my God.
I mean, people laugh at me because when I was started publishing, I really understood at that point because I used to sing and play drums in bands.
Right.
I understood ballads and how big those ballads could be. And, first couple of hits I had was like Every Woman in the World. I Made It Through the Rain, stuff that were big ballads. Clive Davis loved. And I was like on the hotline with him for a while, just constantly pitching those. And my friends go, you just understand mush. And I said, no. I said, I understand all of it because I love all of it.
Me too.
But I understand as a publisher who my writers are, who I'm going to have the best shot at getting a song cut with.
Right.
And, whether it's a Hall & Oates, Every Time You Go Away, whatever it is. I didn't get that one cut by Paul. I wish I did. But Susan Dotis did that, so I give her props. She was a sweetheart. You can understand and love all kinds of music, but pop music, like you, I'm a pop music junkie.
Me too.
Top 40 radio initially, 1 ear in, pillow over the head.
Yep.
Father going, go to sleep. and all you can really hear, I would think, in the other room is,
no transistor radio with an earphone.
I mean, I went through more friggin' batteries.
Me too. My dad sold those.
Another battery.
I grew up in the electronics business, from Dad started in 1959. So imagine.
Wow.
And we closed, we were done in the 90s, after CD players, and imagine all the technology I saw,
Oh, no, you had it because, sure, you had the transistor. Look, those transistors started tiny, then they became bigger, and then it was FM, and then it was the antennas on there. And I remember my uncle owned a shop, a technology, radio shop.
Where, New York?
And he repaired all kinds of radios in Brooklyn.
My family's from Brooklyn.
Oh,
Bensonhurst.
Yeah, 18th Avenue, my uncle.
Yeah, Bay
72nd
Parkway.
Street. Yeah. So that's where his shop was.
All my uncles, everybody's from Bensonhurst.
You're my uncle.
We're related.
Ray. Finally met my ex-cousin.
I wouldn't be surprised. My father, he was Jewish. And the Jews and the Italians in Bensonhurst, they mixed together all the time. And my dad was friends with a lot of, wise guys, Italian wise guys.
Yeah, we had the same thing going on. I played drums for them. I just wrote a screenplay called Familia, and I've been writing a book about it.
Awesome. You're a busy guy, man.
Nah, you know what? Can you get it all in a lifetime?
No, it's impossible.
I mean, that record that went to #2, it entered on the charts at #2, the one that I co-wrote, came out of my workshops. It went to #1 for one day.
Really?
It popped off. And I said to myself, 70 some odd years old, and #1 after 70 years. I said, I want to do that again with a big record. I want to do it with a major artist at some point. You can't get it all in.
No, you can't.
You can't. I mean,
I wrote a TV pilot recently.
On what was it?
I don't know what to do with it. I don't know anybody.
What's it about?
Huh?
What's it about?
Me growing up in the family business. It's based on my first book in D.C. I grew up in D.C. in the downtown D.C. 2 blocks from the White House.
I think I mentioned to you that you had the Cellar. Was it? Was the big place there?
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
DC?
Donny Hathaway and all those.
The Cellar Door.
Cellar Door, that was it.
Yeah, that's
I
huge.
used to go there.
That's where everybody started.
And DC was Ahmet Ertegun. Talk about starting. That's where he started selling his records out of.
Yeah. And you knew him. He was a mentor also, right?
He was a big. He taught me about art. He's a huge collector.
You got to admit, you were in the right place at the right time, and you were a little lucky. As far as the mentor part, I mean, your professionalism
would I ever say
is different.
Anything but luck? I mean,
my gosh, the people.
Was I ready for it from time to time? I don't know. My ears were open. That's for sure. I was like a sponge because because I knew who these people were and what they
Right.
meant. You know, being an English teacher, when I got into the music business, I knew nothing about the business.
Mm-hmm.
I was a drummer,
Mm-hmm.
and I had this grandiose notion that, you know, well, being a drummer, you know, I could do whatever I got to do. So sure enough, I thought, okay, this is, you know, business that I'm going to enter into without knowing anything about it, right?
Right.
So I found out that we had Billboard, Record World, and Cashbox.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. Every Sunday I read them voraciously, forgot all about my English teaching, and you know, I did, and then just sucked in, oh, that's Ahmed Erdogan. Oh, that's Bruce Unval. Oh, that's Larry Utah.
Right.
You know, and then just, and by accident, I had a horn band, and I was a huge, huge fan of Blood, Sweat, and Tears. I'd go see every concert.
Mm-hmm.
I had a great gig. I know these are little sidebars, but I had a great gig selling clothes. There was only two places in Manhattan. There was Different Drummer and Conspiracy Clothing. I worked at Conspiracy. We sold all the contemporary stuff from London, and it was a head shop. I mean, and we sold stuff, yeah, mostly London. It's all British stuff.
Right.
So all the bands that came through New York came through Conspiracy or Different Drummer. So when I was at Conspiracy, I ended up basically meeting all these bands, and then I would go backstage at the Fillmore, and I would deliver their paraphernalia for them and everything. I got to meet everybody. Met Fred Lipsius from Blood, Sweat, and Tears. I never knew nothing about producing really at all. I just had one record out that one of the guys who Bent Noses helped us with on Buddha.
Right.
And that was a big learning experience. But I did meet Sylvia Rowan through there, and you know, she was new at the time, and she became a very powerful woman in the business. Anyway, the long and the short of it is, you know, coming through those channels, lucky and everything, because Freddie asked me to produce his record. I never produced a friggin' record before. And here's this musical genius icon, just won Grammys for Blood, Sweat, and Tears, you know, what goes up, you know, the arrangement and all that. So I was introduced to people through Freddie, that everybody that was chasing Blood, Sweat, and Tears after they were all trying to get him off Columbia, and you know, it was great. I didn't know what it meant at the time. I knew it was important, but I didn't know what it meant. I knew that it was going to be, you know, something in my future but who knows? I don't know.
Yeah. What similar stories? Paul Ray Smith started by getting backstage. Same thing. He loved the music. He got backstage. He started talking to people. He developed a guitar and then trying to sell that guitar to musicians. And then Shep Gordon, I just had on the show. Alice Cooper's manager.
Shep. What a Shep. He's a lovely guy.
Supermensch. He's got that.
Amazing stories.
Yeah. Oh, great stories. But
what? Yeah.
He got in the music business by accident too. You know the story, right? When he was at a hotel. He was actually a security guard at a prison. He just started. He went to California.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? So he was at this dumpy hotel, and he heard a woman screaming. It was Janis Joplin. So he went downstairs. Janis Joplin said, "Get the hell out of here. I'm okay." I think she was trying to have sex with Jimi Hendrix or something. Then they found out he was Jewish, and then they said, well, "Why don't you become a manager?" You know, and that's how it started, just like that. He didn't know anything about music, you know.
But a lot of people get thrown in and they do amazing things. Now look at Springsteen's manager.
Yep.
Great writer, you know, had a lot of influence on people when he wrote whatever he wrote about a band. It made a big difference. He wasn't a manager, but that bond, that bond, whatever that bond is that put them together, you know, he would just follow. Bruce would basically follow a lot of what he had to say. He had a lot of good strategy for Bruce all the way along. It seemed to constantly work, you know. Right. It's impressive, you know, in the end. I used to get upset because he didn't have much time a day for you, you know what I mean? Right. It's like, no, we got everything covered. Well, we don't need that kind of thing.
I want to talk to you about, you got this thing at the Manatee Performing Arts Center.
Yes.
March 17th, 18th, and I think the 19th and 20th, I think, coming up.
We need more people.
Well, it says this thing is submissions deadline is closed February 19th. Are you reopening that, or?
Hang on a second, Ray. I'm
Sure,
sorry.
no problem.
Let me close the door here. Thanks, Ray. Go ahead.
So it says the submission deadline is closed on February 19th. Are you reopening, or that's it?
No. It's reopened.
It's reopened. Good.
Please,
I want to promote it.
Please say it's reopened. And you know what? I'm going to make a note to call them up and tell them to reopen it.
Okay, good.
I
want to mention
submissions.
The camp is designed for songwriters for all experience levels, from those taking their first steps in songwriting to seasoned artists looking for fresh inspiration. It says here, to apply for the camp, participants must complete an application form. Applicants are encouraged to submit a link or MP3 file of their original work for review.
Yeah, they sent it to me. Yeah.
I'm going to put all the information on there on my website.
I appreciate it. And say that's a mistake about February 19th.
Good.
It's going to be open right to the end because, in essence, I want to reach a broad audience down there.
Right.
I want to make it so that I am a constant presence in that area for a lot of reasons. I talk to a lot of people who tell me that, look, you got a bunch of universities there. You got a bunch of songwriters floating around. There's a blues festival that happens once a year. There's a lot of people show up at. And yeah, so I spoke to somebody about when I was last time in there about let's do singer-songwriter festival. It was his idea. It wasn't mine. But I thought, okay, this is right up my alley, you know, and I think there's a lot of things that you can do when you have a rich area like that, in terms of talent. Talent is everywhere. Yeah. And what I discovered is, you know, I live in Los Angeles, right, and then I go to New York. I'm in New York, right? When you have somebody like myself, got a good history. A lot of people in the music industry have good histories.
Oh yeah,
been around, and but they're not interested anymore in doing things. And I'm interested in staying on top of things. I'm interested in mentoring people. I'm interested in sharing. I'm interested in making music still, and I'm interested in education. All these things are really important. They're really important. These are, sorry.
It's all right. I've had dogs barking in the background. Don't worry about it.
Say it again, Ray.
I've had dogs barking during the interview. Don't worry about it.
You know, hold on. Thank you, sir.
No problem. If you need any help while you're down here, just give me a call. I'll be glad to help you out on anything. Sure.
I'm you know, I just want to make it number one.
Right.
There's a few things I want to do. I want to make it really fun. Have all my recording sessions are fun. They're not. If you can't bring joy into something like music, something that you love like that, you know, what are you doing it for?
Yeah. Well, you're a likable guy. You got a great personality.
Well, thank you.
You know, so everybody's gonna like you.
Well, the thing is this: I try to. It's you have to work on things. You know, in the beginning, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. In the beginning, I fired myself from playing drums on a session. I did.
That's funny.
Because the arranger came over and he says, "You sound like shit. You cannot play the." He didn't say it that way, but basically, it was like you can't play to the click. Every time you come back, you come off the beat. And the string section, everybody's getting frustrated. Usually 2 takes, they're out of here.
Right.
So I had to fire myself. And, you know, you get humbled all the way along the road. So many times, so many different things humble you. You know, you sit and you start learning that, number one, I love what I do. So how do I, more than anything, how do I bring my love affair to an audience of people that grew up on a telephone?
Yep.
And, you know, how do I animate that enough for them to make them see how much fun this can be, how productive it can be, and what they can get out of it to make themselves, you know, really, really become successful.
Sure.
Because you got to get lucky. You said luck. I write that through the whole book. You know, I said, no matter how many great songs I'd have for this or that, it mean nothing. You know how many times I've had songs that Clive Davis has said, I just cut it, and 7 months later, it's scrapped. Or I've had instances where I had one song climb in the charts, song that I owned, and it went to 19, and then the head of the label's son died. That was the end of that, you know. And you know, what are you going to say? I mean, the life is so much more important than the song. So, you know, you're sitting there like, oh, poor guy, you know. You just can't predict any of this stuff. None of it.
You know how many artists I talked to that said, I'm lucky. I'm lucky. I'm lucky. A lot of them. They all say luck had a lot to do with their careers. You know? I'm not lucky, man.
Oh, you're lucky. Come on.
I don't know.
You're alive. You're sitting there. We're having an interview. It's fun.
True.
We're
I'm
lucky
alive.
We're lucky to be able to do that.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
You know.
You worked with John Hammond, didn't you? Also? That's another biggie.
I have good John Hammond stories that never end up in his book. I didn't even get nothing in his book. I got nothing. But yeah, I got that gig through Chuck Gregory. And you want to talk about luck and no luck. Chapel Music was being sold, and I was so happy at Chapel Music. Chapel Music to me was like, what a great first job. Everybody was fun, talented, loved each other. We'd go to breakfast, lunch, play baseball together. We'd go hang out. You know, there was a community in New York of executives and stuff like this. And they were all friends. We all went to see the same bands.
Yeah.
I still talk to half of them now. You know, we were just a community of people.
Right.
And even though we were competing, we were healthy competitors.
Sure.
We enjoyed the competition, but we didn't stick it to each other. It wasn't any of that stuff going on. It was just, hey, best man gets it, whoever somebody vibes with. You know? I lost Bon Jovi for $2,000. Could have had him. The boss would have won $2,000 more. We would have had Bon Jovi. You know, Metallica, $40,000. My boss said no. No. You know, publishing, not in records. Records, we signed it. But anyway, the bottom line is luck is so much to do with, you know, with what we do. And sure, if you're not lucky, what the hell else is, you know?
Exactly. I interviewed a lot of those guys.
Oh,
you had John Hammond. I had Gino Vanelli on the show. Gino Vanelli, Kim Wilson for the Thunderbirds many times. Patrick Simmons.
Worked with both of them.
All good guys.
We signed both of them.
All the interviews I've done, I haven't had one bad one. No, they've all been so personable with me. Good guys.
But see, because you're an easy interviewer, you have the knowledge of the background, you ask the right questions, and you just flow with it. It's not like you're sitting there with a list going on.
No, I don't.
And then did this happen? You know? I understand you took a shit in the middle of the road, and then they, you know, I mean, it has to be.
Well, you know, it feels like I'm talking to my friends from high school because all my friends were in bands, you know?
The beauty of it.
And I was in a band, you know? So it's just like high school all over again. It really is.
But you understand musicians.
Yep.
You're a musician.
Yeah.
Anytime you got a musician with another musician, I was explaining this to someone about how they said, oh, you went to school in Bed-Stuy. I always mentioned it. I was born in Brooklyn. I'm a stereotype of just missing Italian. I'm missing the pinky ring. That's it.
There you go.
Brooklyn Italian, you know? Yeah. Hey, Vinny, what are you doing? What are you listening to that shit for? Come on, Vinny, what do we do this over here? Let's get gobble and we're good, you know?
Forget about it.
But I was explaining to them that music has a different kind of power, different kind of magic. I said, I got jumped 8 times going to school. I hated going to school because I went during riots.
Right.
And I said, and still during the riots, what I tried to understand and realize is that it wasn't about a black and white thing. That was going on in society.
Right. Not in school. Not in school.
It was really about the fact, you know, what the black population was going through and how they needed to rise. But when it came to music, we all worked together. So there was no color. And I tried to explain that to somebody. You work with somebody from Brazil, you work with somebody from, you know, Italy, you work with somebody from here, there, blah, 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 blah. Look at, what's his name? Ed Sheeran. I love Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran took that song Perfect, and he did a beautiful version with Bocelli. Ah, man, it's like, you can do anything. Music just goes right past all of it. Zoom, zoom, zoom. I don't understand. And that's when it really pisses me off, when people start playing rank about, you know, it's a this or it's that or it. You know what? It's just music.
It's music.
Just music. We just make music. Good, bad, or indifferent. We make music. That's what we do. Happy doing it. You get lucky doing it. You know, you need all of it to have a career. Now, I'm lucky. 50 years. I'm in this 50 years.
Amazing.
It's shocking. And if I drop dead tomorrow, I'm proud of everything I've done. You know, I mean, would you do things differently? If it's all about learning, no.
Yeah.
You learn from all of it.
You know, I talked to Todd Rundgren. He was on the show a couple of times. I said, man, how did you learn the board? How did you learn all the skills and everything? He says, one day I just got in the studio and started playing with the buttons.
Yeah.
You know?
No, he was. Now, you want to talk about a guy ahead of his time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He was way ahead of his time, because if you think about it, he had videos before anybody else.
Right.
You know, and his manager, you know, what's his name up in Bearsville, who died on the airplane.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. He, you know, he fostered a great community. He had Joplin, he had Hendrix at one point.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan, Todd Rundgren. What a community of just, you know, talent up there. But Rundgren, he was ahead of the loop.
He was. He's a regular guy. He's from Philly.
Oh, he's sweet.
Yeah.
My group, Men of a Certain Age, we cut That's All the Light in Your Eyes. All the songs are great. You know, he's a great songwriter. He had a very underrated song called Light of the World, Shine on Me.
That's a beautiful song.
Love is the answer. Very underrated song. But I thought that should have been a bigger record.
Yeah, I agree. He's good. He comes to Florida a lot.
Does he?
Yeah. He likes
to
Florida.
Perform?
Yeah, he does. Comes to Clearwater. Yeah, he likes it down here.
Yeah, I never met him.
You never met him? Yeah. He's in Hawaii.
No.
He lives in Hawaii.
Yeah, that I know.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of guys. Walter Becker moved to Hawaii. George Benson has a place in Hawaii. There's some real talent there.
Yeah, Shep has a place in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Shep Gordon.
Shep, what I think is Shep, the thing that always really got me is that he's got Alice Cooper forever, but he had Luther and Teddy Pendergrass.
Yes.
Both of them had those car accidents.
I know.
All at the same time. I kept thinking to myself, this poor guy, Jesus, the Italians call it malocchia, you know, when you have the bones on you.
Yeah.
He must have had the malocchia at that point. That got erased, but Jesus Christ. A rough one.
I was an entrepreneur. I owned retail electronics stores. I owned a dry cleaning full service plant, believe it or not. It was a franchise.
Really?
So I know how hard it is to start a business, okay? But how difficult was for you to start your company and attracting new business?
When I started it by myself,
right,
I knew that I'd worked. I had this really good thing going. Not if you're talking about when I started in the business, forget.
Well, right now you got partners in this.
I have partners.
Business,
yeah,
right?
my most important partner in this business passed away.
He passed away.
November 22nd.
I heard about that. But how do you get the new talent? You know, in today's world.
You know, they first of all, they come out of the woodwork.
Okay.
I mean, I was just having breakfast, and the waitress goes, "You're in the music, right? My daughter come out of LaGuardia High School, and she's a really great singer." And
Right.
So right away,
word of mouth. Yeah.
sitting having a, but we get calls from lawyers, we get calls from other managers who are like, are you open to produce something?
Okay, good.
Are you open to co-writing? It's really, especially with Phil.
Mm-hmm.
Phil knew everybody. Phil calls me up one day from Chicago. He says, I'm sitting here in a cab. Listen to this. He's playing me on the cab from Chicago. We signed the kid right away. The kid was amazing. It's just, I can't even, and that kid heard Phil talking to Janet Jackson on the phone.
Right.
He said, was that Janet Jackson? I was, yeah, I managed Janet. Yeah. It just comes that way in the beginning, obviously not, but after a while. But the biggest, I'll tell you what the most difficult thing is, trying to manage a band that's new.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's all going one direction, I can tell you. Trust me, I have gray hair under here.
Yeah.
It's
babysitting, right?
That's therapist, babysitting, whatever you want to call it. I used to get calls too. Literally, a guy standing out my window on Christopher Street where I lived in the village. I had these big round windows, right? And they would know my apartment, right? Bobby C, 2:30 in the morning, screaming, let me in, I got a girl with me.
Okay.
I'm like, let you in, you got a girl? What are you, nuts? I mean, and they were all crazy like this, it's just very few had enough of an ego that was calmed down, that wouldn't allow them to act out,
right?
But most of them, it's about them. And when COVID hit, we had just signed 3 bands to labels. We were so happy, all lined up, because Phil's best friend, Phil went to Syracuse College with Rob Light, the head of CAA.
Mm-hmm.
John Sykes, the head of iHeartRadio, and I believe the third guy was the guy who used to be at William Morris Endeavor. I forget his last name, but anyway, so we had Rob looking at the artists for touring.
Mm-hmm.
We had radio if we needed radio as follow-up. Social media is everything. So we were challenged with social media because our artists didn't want to engage as much. That's the wrong time to not engage. This is a time when, unfortunately, I can't stand it, but you have to engage. You have to understand TikTok. You have to understand the algorithms.
Right.
You don't have to understand the algorithm how to write a song, but it helps in terms of.
Well, the old days, touring was very important. Get out there.
I think it is now.
Is it? Okay.
I think it's really important if you can, as a young act, get a couple of opening slots. And the reason being is because the more people see you, the more people talk about you.
Exactly.
Also, you're making some money and you're honing in on your craft.
Yep.
And you can't bury your head in the sand. The competition is too deep. I mean,
it is.
What is it? 500,000 songs every couple of weeks are on the internet. Who's listening?
But they're not buying albums anymore, right? They're just buying.
There are no album deals. The bands are being signed to labels for singles deals.
Oh,
by like 1950s again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's shocking.
Like in the Paul Anka days.
Shocking.
You actually opened for Dion in the Belmonts, right? At one time?
I played drums for him.
You did. I had Dion on the show.
Yeah, I mean, all the old timers. My friend Jimmy Ryan, who was Carly Simon's guitarist eventually.
Yeah.
Jimmy, and he was in the Critters.
Mm-hmm.
So Jimmy knew all these people, and Jimmy and I became friends. And my friend Barry Hirschberg.
Right.
Barry worked sometimes with the Critters too. For whatever the reason, Barry would call me up and say, "Dude, you want to play drums? We're doing the Shirelles and the Chiffons and whoever."
Yeah.
And there was always the worst thing for a drummer is during those days, right? In this late 60s, early 70s, was getting a gig in an auditorium where the speakers, everything was in the front and you were in the back. So no matter what was going on, you're trying to read a guitarist's hands to
That's
see
hard.
where 2 is,
That's
4,
tough.
where, and you couldn't hear anything because of the delay. So I'm getting that delay, So it was kind of shocking, to say the least. But what am I going to do? It's, for me, you get no complaints. What a great experience.
Yeah. I had Joey D on the show.
Joey D and the Starlighters.
Yeah. What a cool guy.
They all played at the Peppermint Lounge.
That's right.
All those places in New York.
Right.
I worked with Screaming Jay Hawkins for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't tell you any John Hammond stories. Maybe that's next time. There's great
Go ahead.
John Hammond stories.
I want to hear that.
Yeah. There's stories that, the stories that we know never end up in books. Not unless you're Walter Yetnikoff.
Because you're afraid to put it in the books.
Well, they're all dead now. Tommy James will tell you they're all dead. So he wrote his book now, Tommy.
Yeah.
He got it out. He's trying to do a Broadway show now.
He's been trying to do that for a while now. I did
the movie.
Also. Yeah.
Tommy's a sweetheart. I love
He's a
Tommy.
good guy. He got screwed for many years by the mob.
Oh, yeah. Same guys that I played drums with.
Is that right? Wow.
What he told me, though, because I speak to him and see him from time to time. We keep threatening to write together, but we still haven't done that. Yeah. But he told me that the one good thing that came out of all of it with Morris and all was that if he was signed to another label, they would have never let him produce himself and get his ideas out, and he would never have had any success.
That's true. He told me that.
So, it's I know the first thing we did in the record business, they handed us a contract on a Friday night, said sign it by Monday.
Right.
We didn't know there were music attorneys. My ex-wife's cousin was a lawyer. He said, yeah, sign it. He looked at it. I gave away the rights to, publishing on something that ended up on the radio for
the hustle thing, right? Yeah. You got screwed there.
No, it's I call it my entrance fee into the music industry. You have to pay a fee. You always have to pay a fee, right?
Live and learn. What can I tell you?
It's just what you do.
I've lost money doing things.
Haven't we all?
I've invested with the pot stocks when they first came out. It turned out to be like a .com thing, and I lost a lot of money there.
Well, weed is all of a sudden, the thing was this: it was going to be controlled, and that was the thing you had to watch out for.
Right?
How are you going to circumvent? How are you going to get around any of that? Because it's like anything else. As you remember, for years, nobody. If you spoke about vitamins and all this stuff, it was like the FDA and the medical society. No. All of a sudden, every major corporation started manufacturing their own version of the same thing. Because they're not going to be able. Once they see that it's going to happen regardless of them, hey, all bets off. Yeah. Right?
Oh, well, I took a shot.
I look, you have to, when you look in the mirror, you have to say, you know what? You have to admire your own self for your taking the chances. Everything's about a chance. You don't take any chances, you bury your head in the sand.
Exactly.
You're not living. You're not just not living,
You want to tell the Hammond story first, or you want me to keep going? Or can you tell the Hammond story?
I can tell the Hammond story because it's not a lie. It's not a lie. It's a real story.
Right.
So Chuck Gregory had just brought me over to John Hammond music. And Chuck was a very unique individual. He was a promotion man. He was involved with Sly and the Family Stone. He broke Tony Bennett's record, San Francisco. He also broke Subterranean Homesick Blues as a promotion man. So he was involved with a lot of great stuff. Moby Grape, the Byrds, all this stuff. Like a matter of fact, the Byrds album cover, right? The one with the little glasses and the peacoats and all. They were freezing. They were in San Francisco. They were freezing. He drugged them all into a Army Navy store, and that's what they were selling there then. And that became a look for them. It wasn't planned, that's for sure. So Chuck was one of these guys. And Chuck always had something up his sleeve. So he says to me, he used to call me Coots. Chuck passed away 2 years ago, but I still speak to his daughter. So Chuck says, Coots, I got this tape. You got to listen to it. So we listened to the tape, and it's Stevie Ray Vaughan. It came through a guy named Chesley Milligan. I'll never forget that. So Chesley Milligan was a buddy of Chuck's, sends him the tape. We're listening. I said, it's awesome. Let's sign it. Because I was the head of A&R. So sure enough, we go into John. And John was the loveliest human you could ever imagine, you know. But we just must have caught him on a day when he was a little off, right? So we played for him, and he goes, well, what are we going to do with this? Another blues guitarist, and blah, 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 blah. Tape goes in the garbage, okay? Chuck and I walk out of the room looking at each other like, no way, we're not letting this one go, right? So we go to lunch. And Chuck is a quick thinker. Okay, Coots, what can we do here? Blah, 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 blah. I know what we're going to do. And we start brainstorming. We're going to do a bar band series. And nobody's done a bar band series. And we go to Texas. The T-Birds, I had just spoken to Jeff Aldridge, and they had just dropped them from Chrysalis. So they were just dropped. You know, Stevie was available. Doug Somm was available. So all of a sudden, Chuck comes back, and then Chuck could be like an auctioneer, you know. We walk into John's office, and he goes, Chuck goes, John, we got this great idea. And I'm just standing there like this, right? John, he's going, we got this great idea. We're going to do the bar band series. He's going to be the Doug Somm, and we're going to have the Fabulous Thunderbirds and Stevie Ray Vaughan. And you know, just threw the word out, you know, Stevie Ray Vaughan. And Chuck goes, John goes, fantastic. That's a fantastic idea. Grabbed the tape out of the garbage. Boom. Phone call made, and we signed both T-Birds. And that doesn't go in any books, because then John became, when he met Stevie, they were like this. Yeah. So the album, John's the producer on the album. And in order to keep the Hammond moniker, because John didn't like what was going on with the investors, right? Private investors, and they were bent noses too. He didn't like what was going on, and John was spending money on crazy projects, you know, like spoken word albums, you know, from Allen Ginsberg and things like that, you know. So to do the buyout, we had to give away the T-Birds and Stevie Ray. So Columbia and Epic. Oh, really? Well, I think it was Associated Labels got one of them, and then and then the label ended up folded not too soon after that, unfortunately, because we had Gino Vanelli, we had Black Cars. That was when it fell apart, when the investors didn't have the money to continue the promotion on Black Cars. We had some incredible records in the can. Yeah. Oh my God. You know, a couple of them I produced, a couple of other guys produced. We had a great album in the can that had Patrick Simmons, I had just signed from the Doobies. Right. And that one had Steve Perry on it, Nathan East, just Santana, all the West Coast guys, you know. Yeah. That sat in the can, and I heard the 4 or 5 of the tracks were like, oh, so good. Then we had an album in the can by a band called another good band. I forget. Anyway, not important. Important thing was
good story. You know?
We had a lot of good stories with John. Because John was fun.
Well, the Beatles got turned down. Was it RCA, I think? And Tommy Rowe was trying to get him signed in the beginning.
Right.
I talked to Tommy about that. And
they ended up on VJ first, right?
Yeah, VJ, right?
Yeah.
But they laughed at him. They saw the cover of the album. They saw their hair, and, you know.
Look, nobody's a genius. I won't mention a name here, but I had Celine Dion's first hit.
Really? She's so good.
And she was awesome. A sweetheart, 17 years old. Renee Osmond.
You saw the documentary about her, about how her health and everything. What
I tried to get doctors to go over there, but they had their own teams and all.
I felt so sorry for her, going through that.
She's just a lovely person. Takes care of 13 family members, and I mean, she's
awesome. Yeah.
But Celine was signed to Canada, Columbia Records in Canada.
Right.
And they needed 4 more tracks. So they called my buddy Chris Neal up, who I had had success with with Sheena Easton and some other stuff, and Chris and I had been close. So Chris loved the song that I gave him called Where Does My Heart Beat Now?
Mm-hmm.
And so she cut it, and she cut some other songs. And international at Columbia Records, there was a gentleman there I won't give a name because he's a lovely guy too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have a lot of nice people, you know.
Sure.
It's just we all miss some.
They're all good people. They really are.
Yeah. But this guy in particular, we walked in and he said, average song,
Mm-hmm.
average singer. And I'm saying, you got to sign. David Foster did most of the record. Chris has done this. Don't you want to put it out? And he goes, no. He goes, you know, you can take it to wherever you want. We took it to Epic. We went right down the elevator.
Right.
Went to see Don Grierson. Grierson had a history with Chris and with me. And he loved it. And then a friend of mine, Walter Sabo, was running. Walter, I never got a chance to really thank him about this, but he was running adult contemporary radio.
Mm-hmm.
He had an independent team. And I used to have breakfast with Walter.
Mm-hmm.
And Walter came to my house one day. I played him the cassette, gave him a cassette of it. And somehow magically between Epic and Walter, the record took off, you know, because she didn't have any look. They did the same video 3 times. She had no look at that point, no style. They really styled her up for the second album.
Yeah.
You know, so.
I always wanted to be an A&R guy. Probably back in the 60s and 70s, though, of course.
That's the only time to be an
A&R. I know.
Well, no, early 80s. You could do early 80s.
Do they still have A&R guys? Do they still exist?
So, I talked to my friends who is now the seniors over at the labels, right?
Right.
And yeah, they have A&R guys, and they have some guys with really good ears. But basically what they've done is they switched out, how do you say this? They switched out A&R as the main function, and they've put in data guys. And all they do is study data, data. Oh. And they're all chasing the same artists.
Mm.
And the staggering amount of money they're given for a single is, for me, it's just shocking because they'll go into millions for a single. And I don't know how they can calculate how many streams you're going to get, you know, that justify. How do you justify a $2 or $3 million single with no follow-up?
Right.
No album, no nothing.
I don't get it. I don't get the industry.
I don't either. And I think they're switching they're switching. There's a new platform coming up called iProdigy that my friend Eric Todd started.
Right.
And it's a development platform. And I think that's going to be one of those game changers if he gets what he needs behind it, because that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
Artists need development. They don't just pop out, and I don't care how many computers you have and how much you study the algorithms and all. It's good to understand them. It's good to study everything, but artists need developing. They need a story to tell, and they need to grow the story. Right. So how do they grow the story unless you sit and work with them and nurture and, you know, understand that, and then have a long-term contract, because after 2 years, it's not enough.
No.
And that's usually when you get bounced.
I don't like auto-tune, and I'm not sure how AI is going to fit into all this, you know?
We're having a lot of lawsuits now. They scrape the internet.
Yep.
So if you scrape the internet, you're technically stealing information. You know, it's a copyright infringement. But who's going to keep up with all that? How are you going to find that?
I don't know. Being a teacher, kids using AI, you know, for their
you know what
book reports.
I have to tell you to me, that's ridiculous. But I tell you what's helped me with AI is that AI has been a good tool for me putting together courses, you know, 10-week courses on the histories of things.
Well, that's
what's good is I'll say what's developed during that time. AI will give me a printout.
That's good.
And then I'll take each little point and develop the points. Mm-hmm. And AI is good at helping with that. That saves me time.
Right.
That's all. It's my own language. It's, you know, how I interpret and tell the story anyway. It's always
sure.
Who's your favorite songwriter?
Oh, there's so many. You know, what I do, I'm really into progressive rock. Okay. There's so many great bands out there all over the world. My thing is I bring them on my show and introduce them to the US because those lyricists are fantastic with the prog rock guys. So I get people from Australia, Germany, Norway, Sweden, and I do Zoom interviews with these guys because
That's cool.
they're so talented.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Nobody else is going to do it.
Well, no, but prog rock, they told stories. You know what I loved about them? Fantasy.
Yeah.
They told stories about like fantastic stories.
Mm-hmm.
Even when they told historic stories, if you think about Rick Wakeman with the Six Wives of Henry VIII or whatever. When I was growing up, I thought that was the coolest thing,
Yeah.
Catherine, whatever. I didn't know anything about history. Really, I hated my teachers. But when he did Journey to the Center of the Earth,
that's right.
That was one of the first shows where they put David Hemmings, the actor, on the stage in this beautiful big chair, right? Had lights and smoke coming up, and he was narrating, right? Behind it, they had actual blow-up monster and stuff. It's like lizards and shit. But it never was done before that.
Right. That's right.
That was it. Pink Floyd hadn't done what they did with the pig and everything else yet.
Yeah, the rocket.
The wall.
But there's so many good bands out there, There
Yeah,
really is. And
we don't have bands on the charts.
No.
We have less than 5% are bands.
Because they're all overseas. I don't know. The Europeans understand more the legacy of music. You know what I mean?
Germans.
The Germans, yes.
Yeah. I can see that. No.
The Netherlands, Holland, those guys too. I mean,
well, the thing is this: they do those outdoor venues.
Yep.
For 80,000 people.
Yeah, they
become big events. You can do an afternoon, Glastonbury, or whatever. Big events.
Yep.
So you want bands.
Exactly. I got a music publisher. Okay. I got to tell you, the responsibilities of a music publisher, I read up on this. He signs songwriters, collect royalties, license songs, promote songs, register songs, negotiate contracts, provide feedback, and facilitate collaborations. Is that the hardest, do you think, in the music industry to become a publisher? It seems like a lot of work.
No, it's not. The administration part is the hard part.
Right.
That's the part I'm really poor at. If I know any of my shortcomings, that's one of them. It's I've never been great at that, which is why I've always tried to have a co-publisher for our company. Which I've had a hard time getting a co-publisher to work with our company for some reason. We got about 150 songs. We had about 10 on the charts.
Right.
In different areas. We've had them in films and stuff like that. But for whatever it's worth, I don't know why we have difficulty with that. But so the publishers' functions have changed, a little bit. We pitch for film and television. That's where we want. But that's a crowded market. So
video games, also video games, right?
Well, not really, because the video games, like we represent one guy named Jeremy Soule.
Okay.
Jeremy Soule is the most successful composer for soundtracks for video games. And he shows you how it's done. It's done in layers. And, when you're the composer for that, that's where most of the music's coming from for video games. I mean, I'm sure you can maybe get a guy in there to do some of it, but it's all done in layers, and it's a fascinating process. And those guys are like well known in their own right. They become like the John Williams of video games, classically trained people, big productions, and a lot of fantasy and all that too.
Have you done movie soundtracks?
In what respect? I've been a music supervisor.
Okay.
But mostly I pitch to supervisors. over the years. Now I'm doing some music supervision right now on a couple of films from a Canadian company. I mean, I love doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I love is the visual,
sure,
and then pairing the music with the visual.
That's awesome.
You know, 'cause,
that's awesome.
I'm a visual person anyway.
Right.
Why I like women. I'm sorry. But that's single. Here he is, single. No. Old but single. No.
All right, Bob. What was your first concert you ever been to?
A Murray Decay show at the Brooklyn Fox. I'm pretty sure it was the Brooklyn Fox. And it was all doo-wop.
All doo-wop.
But if you want to know technically, it might have been around the same year as the Metropole when I saw Gene Krupa. So they were similar time frames.
Yeah.
And I don't know which one came first that way, and what you'd call a concert versus a live show. But the concert was definitely the Brooklyn Fox.
Alan Freed was before your time, right? Was he before your time?
Yeah. Well, I was a kid. I was 5 years old.
Okay.
6 years old, you know. But the Brooklyn Fox, my father liked taking me. He knew I loved music, so he would take me. There was the Paramount, the Brooklyn Fox, and then one in the city. And they were all the Murray Decay shows. The Murray Decay had a thing called submarine race watches, which, you know, I guess are like making out,
really
making out parties. So it said Murray Decay and the submarine race watches. And if you were the first 100 people in, you got an album with all the performers who were going to do the show. And I never forget the Corsairs were one of the shows. It was sleeping in smoky places. You know, with all that doo-wop. It was so good.
Yeah.
I loved it, you know. And then the Shirelles came on, I think, and all the groups like that are all the harmonies and the popular groups there. You know, Phil Spector was producing most of them at that point.
Did you know Phil Spector?
Only met him a few times. Met him with Armin Ernigan. Had a dinner one night. That was different. Odd guy. Odd guy. The gun was always on him.
Yeah, I heard.
Bodyguards. Crazy.
How about Bill Graham? Did you know Bill Graham?
More.
Yeah.
Because Stevie toured with Bill, and Stevie Ray was on a bunch of.
I really admired Bill Graham, what he did. You know.
He told me something fascinating, you know, too, and it made perfect sense. I played at the Fillmore, and I used to go there all the time. And, you know, so I was a fan. I mean, he was one of the first guys to put a light show behind music.
Exactly.
The Pig Light Show, I think it was called.
Right.
And multiple bands and all. But in the beginning, these artists weren't getting paid a lot of money. FM radio was exposing them and bringing a new audience to them. And they could play 5-minute songs, 7-minute songs. And AM radio didn't let them do that. Even Light My Fire got cut down to, you know, whatever. All that stuff. Harry Chapin songs, I think, even got cut down, some of them. So what he told me was, and it made perfect sense. I used to go to all these shows. Some show at the Cafe Go-Go would be $3, and you'd be in there for 5 hours, you know, and same with his shows. And he said they weren't money hungry. It wasn't the big deal. It was about exposing the artist, getting them out there. The minute, because he was a manager at that point too. But the minute managers started asking him for more and more and more money.
Right.
It didn't make any sense to keep the Fillmore open anymore. It almost defeated the purpose.
Yep.
And I mean, he had some great shows. I was at that show with the Allman Brothers, with live at the Fillmore.
With Dwayne Allman. Yeah.
Oh man, but that show in particular.
Yeah.
In memory of the Lizard Reed's got to be one of the best live recordings. You know,
I agree.
Performance-wise, when he starts really taking off on guitar. Oh man, and so. You know, the money, it became about the money. And so sometimes people talk about what's the difference today and then. And I'll say, I hate to say it in in the wrong manner where people take it wrong. But if your intention is to make a lot of money, and that's how you're writing the song, that's a different intention than the way Stevie Wonder wrote a song.
Right.
Or one of those, or Smokey, or any of those guys.
Right.
They wrote a song because they love writing.
Yeah.
So let me make something creative happen here.
That's
Let
right.
me experiment. Let me take it to a different. Look at Pink Floyd. What I was told yesterday, and I didn't know this, and I was involved when we signed The Wall.
Mm-hmm.
But their first album, they toured it endlessly, and recorded that album.
Mm-hmm.
It was Alan Parsons was the engineer.
Yeah. I know.
So
I know Alan.
Yeah, well, Alan, great.
He's a cool guy. Yeah.
And what a great job he did on that. I mean, and he used the loop on Money. So he was one of those first loop guys, out there. And so, you look at that and you think, okay, it wasn't about the money.
Mm-hmm.
It only became about the money when the managers started getting greedy.
Yeah.
And then it changes. So away goes the Fillmore.
Mm-hmm.
Away goes opportunities to promote,
mm-hmm.
And then people get spoiled by the money. It's like, oh, they're not going to screw us. We deserve blah, 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 blah. Things changed. And then the shift came, and that was it.
Look how much money it costs to go to a concert. Come on, man.
It's ridiculous. I mean,
it was the common for me when I went to concert, $650, $550, and $450. That was it. And you bought their album. Everybody was happy.
Yep. $3, $4,
$5.
Yeah.
I saw the Rolling Stones for $9, and I went front row center.
There you go.
Yeah.
And when the World's Fair closed in New York, they kept the New York City Pavilion open.
Right.
And it was almost like an open place to come in. You can almost walk in for free a lot of times. But if you just stood outside, you could hear everything being played. So bands like Rhinoceros that came through, and bands that were a little different, and they all came through. Zeppelin came through there. Al Cooper, his group, when he put his solo album out, Lighthouse. There was just, I would go every week and just sit for every Friday night, Saturday
Very
night,
cool.
Listen,
The good old days. And they mixed bands, Like I saw Uriah Heep with Earth, Wind, and Fire and ZZ Top in Baltimore, long time ago.
Wow.
They used to mix those, and Bill Graham was good at that. He was really good at mixing that.
He was great.
Yeah.
I remember Savoy Brown got busted at the airport. And so, they put a big FBI symbol on the stage, and they said Savoy Brown couldn't make it, but instead he had a band of what do you call them? Steel drummers.
Yeah.
He had a whole band of steel drummers coming, an orchestra, steel band orchestra coming and play pop songs.
Yeah.
It was great. I mean, you're sitting there laughing, like, wow. But I saw Fleetwood Mac with Peter Brown there.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. Black Magic Woman, the original.
The original version, yeah. I like Bob Welch, too. I was a fan of Bob.
I love Bob Welch.
Yeah.
What was it? Sentimental.
Or how about Hypnotized? That's one of my favorite songs.
Which one?
Hypnotized.
Hypnotized, yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool tune.
Yeah, Greg Kinn, Conspiracy. I remember that. It's just, I remember so many great shows at the Fillmore. Johnny Winter, Edgar Winter, White Trash. Amazing show.
Yeah.
Amazing show.
Yeah, my first concert was Jose Feliciano and Curtis Mayfield.
Where?
In Maryland at the Merriweather. I think it was 1971.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did Feliciano have a band?
No, it was just him.
Yeah. I saw him live with just him too, but it was in a kind of a really more of a nightclub setting.
Right.
But it was just him.
And Curtis Mayfield just put out Superfly.
Oh.
He's promoting Superfly. Yeah.
Well, it's a sin what happened to him, huh?
Yeah, it is. A lot of guys, A lot of hard.
It's dangerous on that stage, pal.
It is.
It can be. Look at in Spinal Tap, the drummer implodes.
Yeah.
It's dangerous up there, I'm telling you.
Spinal Tap.
Well, Because
here's your final question.
Sure. Go ahead.
I ask everybody this question. I get some really interesting answers. Okay.
Okay.
If you had a Field of Dreams wish, like the movie, that's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah. Great
to
movie.
Collaborate, produce, perform with, or collaborate songwriting with anyone from the past or present, who would that be?
Okay. So Stevie Wonder.
Mm-hmm.
And it was offered to me, and I couldn't do it because I was signed to BMI, and they needed an ASCAP co-writer. And for me, I couldn't get out of BMI.
Oh gosh!
And they needed it to be ASCAP, a whole ASCAP team.
What were you going to do for Stevie?
Co-write.
Oh, co-write! Wow!
Yeah.
Wow!
I mean, to me, collaborating with Stevie Wonder would be one of the greatest. But I have too many heroes.
Yeah, we all do.
There's too many heroes, and I mean, that's a good name for a song.
Who's your biggest hero? You got to pick one big hero. I think one of mine is Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull.
Oh, I love Ian. I was at their first show at the Fillmore.
I've had him on 3 times on the show. Love him. He's so cool.
He's an interesting bird too. Didn't he?
Very interesting.
He married a ballet dancer, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
He's a very interesting guy. I mean,
smart guy.
Yeah, smart. Talk about one of those things where heavy metal, bungle in the jungle. Really? I mean,
I know.
But
Metallica got screwed.
Oh, that year, yeah. Please. All right, so heroes. I did get to work with him, but not, and I've spoken to him and had a dinner with him, which is Paul McCartney.
Right.
But second on the list would probably be Mick Jagger, Keith Richards and Jagger. It's either McCartney. McCartney, I did some jazz tracks. My friend Billy, McCartney owns a whole catalog of outside songs. So we did, did we 1 for the money, 2 for the show, so we did we did that. We did, There Were Bells on the Hill. We did a jazz version of that. Yeah. And then we did a jazz version of 4 songs for him that he wanted done like CD 101 style. So that was, My One and Only Love. We did maybe 5 songs. Sting did a beautiful version of that song. I don't know for who, but he sang it somewhere. I mean, it would be in this order. It wouldn't be Steely Dan anymore because it wouldn't really be Steely Dan.
No.
So it would have been Stevie Wonder.
Right.
McCartney.
Right.
Sting again. I only did one thing with Sting. Elton. Bee Gees. Because I'd worked with them, but I never wrote with them.
Talk about a heartbreak. To lose your brothers like that? Oh my God.
Oh, and Barry's been depressed ever since. His son's out on the road with him, but he's depressed,
Yeah, that's sad.
And if Quincy was alive, Michael Jackson, obviously.
Right.
We were going to manage Michael. I moved out to LA. Frank DeLeo was a good friend. I had worked with him. Actually, it's interesting. Frank, there's great Frank DeLeo stories, but you're asking me the last question. So I won't go off. Obviously, Michael Jackson would have been an amazing one to work with.
Right.
Luther Vandross, producing a Luther Vandross track. That would have been, Luther Vandross to me has the most important R&B voice out there.
Yeah.
When you just listen to him, it's like breathing. He just breathes the notes out and in. It's, if vapor could have colors coming out of a mouth, it would be this kaleidoscope of just amazing vocals.
I agree.
And he was so relaxed with it. Yeah. When he would perform, he was just so relaxed with it.
I love R&B. I grew up in D.C., so R&B was huge. Yeah.
It's my favorite. Look,
Me too.
I'll tell you one right now. Bruno Mars.
Yeah.
I love Ed Sheeran. I love Bruno Mars.
Yeah.
And John Mayer. So I mean, it's too many. It's just too many.
There's a lot.
You know, I had a dinner with John Mayer once, a partial dinner. I would have loved to work with him. You know, some of these guys, they're off. They get their guy. They're happy with their guy. Some of them work with a lot of different people. Bruno Mars is the ultimate entertainer, and he can write any song on any kind of, he can just write anything. And same with Ed Sheeran, he can write anything. A friend of mine the other day said to me, "Do you like that song, Die With a Smile?" I said, the minute I heard it, I said, and it's not just because it's Bruno Mars. You're just going to hear it constantly and constantly. You're going to hear young kids singing it. You just, one of those songs, And he goes, "That's not that good." I said, okay. It won an award at the Grammys, It's just, but I'm digging country music. I don't know about you, Ray. I listen to country all the time because it's become rock.
Yeah. Well, I always liked Reba. I always wanted to interview Reba because I think she's cool.
Yeah.
I was on a conference call once with Dolly, Linda Ronstadt, and Emmylou Harris. That was cool.
Oh.
They're funny. they're,
Oh,
when they get together. Funny. I love Dolly. Isn't she cool?
She's the best. She is the best.
She is so neat. I love to be able to interview her also.
But the new country thing that's going on,
right?
Where you take a Post Malone and he does country duets with everybody, and they're good. They're really good. And then you got guys who write Creek Will Rise and, drinking cab in a solo in the cab of my truck. I love it. They're stories, they're always
I know.
Great stories.
I always said there's nothing like a lone guitar player on stage, with a guitar and a story. That's all you need. I mean, I told Tom Rush that. People like Tom Rush, it's like Harry Chapin, those guys.
I met him the week before he died.
Really?
Yeah, it's.
I loved Harry Chapin. He was so good. I interviewed his brother, Tom Chapin. Tom.
Yeah, they had whatchamacall. Harry's songs were like Jim Croce's songs.
Yeah.
Stories.
Yeah.
Cool stories. Different stories.
Exactly.
Not typical stories. And they were stories that, you sit and go, well, Taxi. It's great. It's the first one.
It's a great song, isn't it?
So good. So good.
I must have listened to that 1,000 times.
But that's FM radio.
That's
and then
it.
At night, Alison Steele, the night bird, would talk to you with that sexy, sultry voice, right? And she would read poetry, like mystical poetry. And if you were high, forget about it. Gone. You were just off in la la land.
I know.
This is what doesn't get any better than that. I don't think the kids have that today. They
don't have that today. I will say, if you go on YouTube, there's a lot of talented guitar players, especially women.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
A lot of great women guitar players nowadays.
A lot of Asian kids.
Yeah.
A lot of Asian kids.
Yeah.
One kid on there, this little kid who looks like he's 90 years old. He's like,
yeah. It's amazing.
See that guy? He looks like
I did see that guy.
Old soul.
Yeah.
So
if I have a guy, say from Germany or from the prog rock guy, that he's not getting any exposure in the US, he's got a record deal. Can you help him here? With a new recording, or I don't know, something here in the US?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, please feel free. You got an open door with me. Just whatever you want, send me.
Okay.
Sure. I mean, who knows? one thing I can help people with is pitching for film and TV.
Okay.
Because I'm putting together a whole team of people, non-exclusively, so that way.
All music, though. I mean, like I have a TV pilot that wouldn't be your
It
territory.
depends. I'm trying to get mine out there now. You know.
Right.
I know some people.
You want me to send you the script?
Sure.
I'll send it to you. You'll get a kick out of it anyway.
Sure. I mean, I love the premise. So
did you get the my book that I sent you, the Rock and Roll Chronicles?
No, I'm not, and I'm not home.
Okay, it's on your email. It's an attachment. I sent it to you.
Well, then I'll check.
You'll appreciate it. It's got some great interviews in there.
Hang on, let me write down to look for it.
It's such a good book, and I just need to promote it, and I don't know what to do. I'm not very. I can promote other people, but I'm not very good at promoting myself. Does that make any sense?
Did you self-publish it?
I did.
So let me turn it over to my friend Charles.
I went through literary agents. They all rejected it. You know?
Yeah, so let me send it to my friend Charles.
Okay.
You know, Charles, you know, like I said, I sent him a year ago, and he's a dear friend, right? One night I get a call at 10 o'clock at night. He goes, Bobby, I didn't know you could write. How long do I know you, Charles? I mean, I wouldn't send you, you know. But
yeah.
Sure. I didn't know what to say to him.
When's your book coming out, by the way?
Hopefully June. We have an editor looking at it now in London. I hope June, July.
All right. When it comes out, let me get you back on the show so we can talk about it.
Yeah, sure.
You know,
this is fun.
I'll promote the hell out of it.
No, thank you. This is fun.
Yeah.
And also, if I can get a copy of some of this, because it
tomorrow morning. You'll get it tomorrow morning.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. It's going to be everywhere. I belong to like 25 streaming services, you know.
Awesome. So how do we get people to the show, to my song camps? That's the secret, too. Because I want to build this up so that it's a constant every couple of months. Come down there, we got camps, you know. The last two camps, records have come out that have been cut and on iTunes with #1s. Not a bad thing, you know, for a young person who's sitting at home.
Yeah. Are you advertising this on your website?
I haven't done anything with my website. I'm trying I'm going to do more of it on my Instagram.
Okay.
Because Instagram and
TikTok.
I don't do well with TikTok.
I don't like TikTok either, but my son is pushing the hell out of me to do more.
You have to. You have to. You don't have any choice.
Yeah.
There's no choice. So
you know, I hate it.
We're kind of stuck, right?
I know we are. I'll interview the greatest music legends ever, right? And then some guy will take a crap on the sidewalk and he'll get 1 million views. You know, I don't get that.
You're not crapping on the right stuff.
I can't do stupid stuff. It's not in me.
Well, that's the, you know, you have to act like a fool. You have to act, you know, well, you have to be really good at editing where you go, handy.
I know.
You do something stupid and they go, hey, did you hear that guy down? Handy.
I'm so old school. It's ridiculous, you know?
Look, we get passed by if we're not careful.
I went to broadcasting school, you know? The school was owned by CBS. So
yeah, well, you did it the right way.
I did it the right way. Yeah.
So which doesn't always mean you're going to get a right result.
No, you're not.
That's what Tony Robbins always says. You know, Tony Robbins, I listen sometimes and I go, boy, he's dead on when it comes to certain things.
I know.
Because you can be out there doing everything right. You don't get the right result.
That's what I do. I'm doing everything right, promoting myself, got 3 books out, another one coming. Feels like I'm getting nowhere.
About prolific, you know. You got 3 books.
Feels like I'm getting nowhere. I was an entrepreneur. I was in the banking industry for 15 years. I lent money up to $20 million. So I've got all the skills, and just nobody knows me.
Well, you know, it sometimes takes one thing, right? I mean,
I know. Luck.
Look, I'm like,
takes luck, and I don't have it.
Yeah, my friends always go, you're like a hidden gem, you know. And I said, I never promoted myself.
Right.
I said I enjoy my job.
That's it.
Isn't that enough, in life? But then you get to a certain point where you realize you can time out. Gotta be careful.
I know.
You can time out, because they're not calling me to do the 20-year-old, even though I can do it. They're not calling me to do the hip hop, even though I'm a drummer and I can do beats.
See, I'm like you. I love doing what I'm doing. I did over 600 interviews. I've never made a nickel. So
yeah, but that list is long. Why haven't you been able to monetize the interviews? That's why I'm saying you need a podcast.
yeah.
You need to edit them down. Boom, boom, boom. Start a podcast.
I got a podcast. I'm on.
Well, where is
I'm
it?
on all the avenues. I'm on iTunes. I'm on Apple.
You have a decent.
I don't know how to monetize. Put it that way.
Okay, so that's a different skill set. Let me think about it. Let me think about that, because maybe I know somebody that.
I was a great salesman. All right, growing up, but I can't do this for some reason. Doesn't work.
Well, but you look, you're doing what you do. What you do is a natural thing. It's a very natural interview. Probably the most natural interview I've been on. So, and I've been on two. No. And this is the most natural. The other guy was, half asleep.
I'm not going to bore you. Wake up.
No, I'm seriously. No joking around. Let me see if I know some people that could potentially help.
Anything you can do, I appreciate. I just don't know what to do anymore. And it's a shame that I can't make any money doing anything anymore.
Well, that's our business.
Yeah, that's it. You're right. I heard about that.
You know the price points on what I used to get paid for production and what I get paid now.
I know.
I don't say don't erase that.
But I feel like I got a lot of people. I've got over 4 million people that check out my websites and have visited my websites. So,
but that should be monetized.
I know. I don't know how to do it.
Let me think about that, because I'm good with business.
Okay. All right.
Not my own, but everybody else.
I'll give you a piece. Whatever. I'll split it with you.
What? Just let me come up with an idea. Because if you've interviewed that many people.
I did.
Which I know the list is long, and you could tailor it down to 10. Could be a series of 10.
Right.
Could be, you should have your own moniker that is you, whether it's the sunglass thing and maybe it's a animated Ray Shasho.
Could be.
Something interesting, something different, and all of a sudden that's your placard. That's, people know you for that. And
I was actually in radio, so yeah.
I was in a radio once too.
Yeah.
It's a big box, just right inside there. It's one of the old ones.
The station I worked for was bought out by Pat Sajak, and he just sold it recently in Annapolis. That's a good station, though. It was, we had that echo.
Did you have access to any of that stuff?
What's that? The air checks? Yeah, I got air checks from the old days.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let me think.
All right. Anything you do, I appreciate. You know that.
It's fun. Same here.
Bob, I want to just mention you can learn more about Bob Cutarella. You have your official website, www.robertcutarella.com. You're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, SoundCloud. You have Inspiros. Is that how you say it? Inspiros?
Inspiros.
Inspiros Entertainment website, which is www.inspirosentertainment.com/Robert Cutarella. You're on YouTube, and you can get checked out on IMDb with all the stuff you've done related to.
I haven't, it's funny. I haven't listed all that stuff. I don't pay attention.
There's a few things on there for some of the movies.
Yeah, I don't pay attention. They're probably miserable. They're probably old as dirt.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like my Twitter and my X account. I don't pay attention to it. But I should, but I don't.
You can always hire somebody to do all that for you,
That's what I'm thinking. Somebody has to clean it all up and do the job.
Exactly. Well, I need a mentor, or I need a partner or something, because I've done all this by myself, and I don't know what else to do. I'm stuck.
Well,
I don't know where else I'm going with
I'm
it.
gonna try to come up with some ideas.
All right, that'd be great.
There's definitely a way to monetize it. So.
All right, and let me know if you need any help when you come down to Bradenton. All right, I'll be more than happy to help you out.
No, you know what I want to do?
What's that?
I want to go to a Yankee game, and I want to talk to Aaron Boone, and I want to talk to the players. I had this idea a long time ago. I was following through on a sports song thing with the A-Rod, and then A-Rod got busted. And I put it on the side. But now I talked to the Pittsburgh Pirates about it because I met their general manager. But the Yankees, I grew up with the Yankees. And then when I had cancer, the Yankees got me through it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, 17 years ago now. So anyway.
Well, we got the Yankees in Tampa. The Orioles are here, and Pittsburgh's here in Bradenton.
Yeah.
So they're all close by.
Yeah. So I got to get to a game, and I got to get to Aaron Boone before the game or whatever.
I'll go to the game with you.
Cool. I'll figure it out.
I'm a big baseball nut.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Bob,
we were
thank you
talking
so
about
much,
that
man.
yesterday.
Yeah. Thank you
All
for
right,
being on the show. I really appreciate it. It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
you very much. Huh?
Good luck with everything you got going, and we'll hook up again. Keep in touch. All right?
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
All right, Bob. Take care, man.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on Interviewing the Legends.
What happened to all the musical legends that transformed our lives in the 60s, 70s, and 80s? Today, hackers illegally download music. Online music stores popularize cheap digital singles. And radio stations promote manufactured singers that menace the airwaves with auto-tuned music. The Rockstar Chronicles conveys the wisdom and truth of a generation of rock gods that shaped our modern musical culture. It features intimate conversations with over 45 rock stars that any baby boomer will instantly recognize. The Rockstar Chronicles will transport you back to a time before advertisers ruled the airwaves. A time when the music mattered.